Hello. I'm gonna be writing something soon. Is that it? Alright, that's pretty good. That was really easy. So this is my iPad screen, and I drew on it with my finger and my Apple Pencil, and it showed up with very little lag. Command H doesn't work? I wanted to get rid of Command H. Or hide. Oh well. If you just option click onto a different window, it'll hide stuff. If anyone knows anything about XMirage versus Air Server versus Reflector, about what's better, let me know. I already had this one copy, I think. I just need to send a Twitch chat room. Okay, Twitter, I'm caught up, except for one. Oh, yeah, whatever. Okay, so this came up on chat as well. I wanted to say something. Oh, I said that twice. Okay, there we go. These links I think are worth opening. Might look at those later. Okay, then coronavirus. A couple things to say. Okay, my questions are, there's 4 coronavirus colds. Oh, it disconnected, so I went to the top. Oh, hello. And what I actually should do is I need to scroll it down a little, and then when someone talks, I'll be able to see it because it'll appear close to the bottom. That's what I should do at the beginning of every stream, is just put like 3 dots, so I won't miss messages. Okay. Yeah, every article I've seen about the 4 common colds and whatever, it hasn't even clearly said whether those coronaviruses can actually be caught multiple times by the same person. Because the cold circulates, you get many colds during your life. Are the ones that you get over and over only the non-coronavirus ones, like rhinovirus or something? Like, that might be how it works, but I haven't seen anything clearly say it. I'm not really sure. Also, I don't know if people want me to ping at everyone, or I could do at here in the, like, well, it wouldn't work here, but I could ping, like, subscribers or something. Or I could ping everyone. Or, people who actually care can follow me on YouTube and get email notifications. You just have to hit the bell thing and switch it to all notifications, and then you can get notified when I start a stream. So maybe I don't need to ping people very aggressively on Discord. But on the other hand, I don't know if there's much downside. Like, is it really a problem if the server has a notification? Like, either you kind of ignore notifications from the server, probably, or else you probably care. Oh yeah, I don't know how you do reactions equal roles. Does that involve getting a bot to do that? Oh yeah, so about $1 million for a story. That doesn't surprise me that much. So he has like many people. People cost a lot of money. This counts like he does video editing. People discuss what to include in the video or not. He has a bunch of different people going out in public trying to record things, and then not all that recording gets used. So for every story he does, there's a bunch of like unused footage, but that still costs money. He trains people, and then some of the people don't produce any videos. Even if he does a really good job, it's just going to happen that way. He has to pick the best ones. And he has to run it by his lawyers. He needs a bunch of lawyers, and they have to decide, are we sure this is legal? They have to be careful about that stuff. And then he mentioned on top of this, he'll like get sued and have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars when people try to sue him. That's quite expensive too. And I already knew that Veritas's budget per year is something like $10 million. That's the ballpark. I think it was a bit more, but I'm not sure. As opposed to something like Front Page Magazine or the Ayn Rand Institute, which I think, if I remember right, were more like 7 or 8 million. Like I remember noticing Veritas was bigger than some other ones in terms of budget. Stuff costs money. People just don't understand how expensive running a business is and doing a bunch of stuff. Yeah, movies are really expensive. I don't like everything about Veritas, by the way. I think the retracto videos are annoying. Like, I don't think there's anything immoral about them. They're just sort of like internet memes, and they're kind of fluff. Like, they focus a bit on having music and a big intro, and then the actual content is like, this journalist had to retract this. Here's what he said, and here's why it's wrong. And the content is good, but it just goes in the middle for like 20 seconds and they make it into a 3 or 4 minute video. It's not a big deal, that's just like a little bit of pandering to the mainstream. By the way, I do not have Weinstein's problem. Like, I can link Veritas stuff to my audience, and everyone's like, okay, cool. I can link Coulter, I can link Front Page Magazine, I can link pro-Israel stuff, I can link whatever I want. If Weinstein can't do that, maybe he doesn't have the best audience like he explicitly says he does. He thinks his audience is so smart and clever, but they're too dumb to, like... He said that he talks to people, and if it's Veritas, they just, like, will not listen to facts, and they're like, la la la, not listening, hate James. It's like, okay, your audience and your friend group are not that good if that's how they react to video footage. And he says he'll try to ask things like, which part do you think had a splice or a misleading edit? Or like, where's the factual error? What specifically about this is wrong? And they won't answer. They're just like, la la la, Veritas, hate them. And shutting their ears. And so that shows his audience isn't very good. His friend group is not very good. He's not all bad. Like, he himself likes Veritas and brought James on the show. I mean, he doesn't fully like it, but he kind of likes it. But I think that his audience is broadly worse than him, and that he himself has lots of flaws. I found him pretty hard to listen to. Like, I wouldn't listen to something unless I liked his guest. But if it was just him talking, I would not listen. He's arrogant, and he didn't really say anything that smart. It wasn't the worst. Like, plenty of people say dumber things. It was an okay interview. Lots of interviews are terrible, and he was okay. But he wasn't good, and he wasn't that clever, in my opinion. Oh, speaking of everyone to the right of Nancy Pelosi, so there's this newsletter from a leftist that I got that I don't pay much attention to, but I saw it today. And he's so leftist that he thinks you can mention AOC and that doesn't discredit you. Like, I don't know, Weinstein's audience can't handle Veritas, but this guy is just mentioning uh, AOC like it's nothing. Like, that's not offending anything in his audience. It's no problem. It doesn't discredit anything. Like, he's like, AOC warned us, as did other reputable people that will impress you with their name recognition. I'm like the left is so egregiously not trying to be like fair or centrist. Like, they're like, well, Veritas goes too far, but AOC's fine, Bernie's fine. They want us to accept those people and be like lenient and tolerant when it comes to far left figures. But Veritas is going too far. I don't agree at all. Anyways, despite this, I was reading some of this because I am more tolerant than a lot of people on the left. And it actually seemed kind of interesting. So they were saying that this $2 trillion bailout or whatever, stimulus, hospital supplies, is actually maybe a $6 trillion deal. And why would there be such a gap? Well, a lot of that is like pork for businesses, he says. And then he says there's actually chatter it could be 10 trillion. And it's like, all the stuff they're not announcing in the 2 trillion that's actually relevant is like pork and things politicians have on a wish list and just want to sneak in. And this whole system is fucking terrible, by the way. The government should just pass like single issue bills. Like, we need a stimulus for this. We're going to buy a bunch of masks and whatever. We'll pass a bill for that. And if you want something else, pass a separate bill. Don't put multiple things in the same bill that people have to vote on as a group. It's such a fucked up system. It's not just this bill. They do it all the time. Anyway, I'll give you guys the link. I don't know if it's better to put links in YouTube chat or Discord. The advantage with YouTube chat is that you can actually get them if you are watching the video in the archive without having to type in the URL. There's like the chat is archived too. Whereas if I put it in Discord and then you're watching the video archive, you're not going to find it in Discord. I mean, you could do like a date search or something, but realistically, you're not going to. You'd be better off just like Googling the title or typing in the URL. Anyway, this guy actually has like an organization and contacts and stuff. He's read drafts of the bill. So he has inside info, which is another reason to look at what he's saying. So I was like halfway through it. He actually thinks he's influential enough. He said that yeah, I asked you to forward my newsletter, repost it, and make some noise. You did, and we managed to delay the bill's passage. So he thinks he's actually changing things. He apparently has the organization American Economic Liberties Project, which is an interesting name for a leftist, who's really in favor of antitrust. That's like his thing. He hates monopolies. So not a capitalist, more of an AOC supporter, but he thinks he's into economics and stuff. $50 billion in loan and guarantees to airlines, 8 for air cargo carriers, 17 for businesses critical to national security. Okay, these are the bigger one here is 425. I saw this. For loans and investments at the discretion of the Secretary of the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin. He can use it to loan money, buy stock, buy bonds, whatever. That sounds like a huge fucking slush fund. Like, we just have this dude in the government. Is that guy even elected? Secretary of the Treasury? That sounds like someone Trump would appoint. I don't know. And then he gets like $500 billion almost, and he can do whatever the fuck he wants with it. That sounds like horrible. And it's just for like generic financial stimulus or whatever. Like if we had a slush fund that was only for medical stuff related to coronavirus, it's like buy whatever you want as long as it's clearly like medical and coronavirus related, like hospital supplies and research. That would be a lot better, it'd be more specific. But this is business related stuff that could be pretty much anything. Appointed with consent of Senate. So yeah, basically not elected. Yeah, I think if the government is making people stay home, you could help people out. And that's compatible with liberalism. This goes way beyond anything like that though, and is ridiculous. And if we're gonna start helping people out who are staying home, can the government come up with any like telework jobs that people can do from home? Like hire people to do something useful from home on their computers? Let's start there before we start handing out money. Maybe like limit the handouts to people who don't have a computer and internet access. Like, because we're as a society we do help like the super poor and whatever, and we're not letting them go to the libraries right now. And but you know, computers aren't that expensive, so we'll limit the handout to like one of the cheapest computers, like $100 or something, and that's all you can get if you don't have a computer. And then after that, we'll ask you to work. Of course, I don't think government telework jobs are the best option. Like, why can't we get just a bunch of businesses to start doing more work from home jobs? Just make it way easier to start small businesses online and whatever, and deregulate and stuff so that big businesses can hire way more people. Like, what they should do is just make a new category of job. So we'll have like regular jobs where all the old laws apply. And then we'll have emergency telework jobs. And you can hire people and you don't have to like do their health care. And you don't have to give them welfare and benefits and anything. All you have to do is pay them like cash for work, and that's it. You know, can we just let people hire in that way for the emergency? And if you do that, businesses will hire way more people. They'll have way less overhead and it'll let people work from home and it'll be better than nothing. Even get rid of the fucking minimum wage. Let people work from home for $3 an hour. if they want to. It's better than being unemployed for some people. Like if you're that poor that you really need the money, you can get a $3 an hour job and that'll like feed you. And like some people are having trouble paying their rent, so if you work 40 hours a week for $3 an hour, you can make in 4 weeks, that would be $480. So like that'll pay groceries for several people, like a whole family. It's not enough for rent, but it helps. And if you have a family of like five and they all do that, then that's enough to pay the rent and the groceries. And the whole family is like surviving on that. I'm sure a lot of people are worth more than $3 an hour. And a lot of people would start at $3 an hour and then they'd like actually do a good job and the company would be like, okay, well I see that you're actually productive. We'll be happy to pay you $10 an hour. But we didn't want to risk paying you $10 an hour at the start when we thought you might not really get anything done. My first job, I started at a lower rate, and they said if you do a good job, we'll very quickly raise you up to this other higher rate. And then that happened pretty fast. Like in under a year, my rate had gone up by, I think, a third. Just like they said. So they just wanted to take a lower risk at the very start, and it worked out okay. I was very unproven, and it was remote work. So they didn't even meet me. And I actually didn't know how to do a lot of the stuff I did. I learned it as I went along instead of like already having learned it but being unproven. It was a lot of it was like just unproven skill of learning it as needed. At-home eye tests using computers. I don't know what that means. Like, can optometrists test your prescription over the internet or something? Is that what you're saying? I had no idea that was even possible if that's a thing. That doesn't sound right. They use those like different lenses so they can put different lenses in front of your eye and see which one helps you. Maybe you mean something else. Okay, maybe they just find out whether you need glasses or not, but they won't actually be able to figure out your prescription. It's just like, do you need glasses at all? They could do that kind of test pretty easily with a computer screen and like a FaceTime chat so they can give you instructions. But you could probably just have it automated and like not even have a doctor involved and just give people instructions. But people might be more successful if there's a doctor like on a video chat with them. Or not even a doctor, like you don't really need an optometrist for that, just a trained person who knows how to do the test. You don't actually have to be an eye doctor to learn how to do that kind of FaceTime chat and tell people what to do so they don't fuck it up. Okay, here's why the bill goes up from 6 to 10 trillion. Additional 4 trillion from the Federal Reserve and lending power for big corporations and banks. Oh yeah, I saw that this morning, Justin. I actually looked up LIDAR. So, LIDAR is like radar or sonar, but it uses laser lights. Whereas sonar uses sound and radar uses radio waves. And sonar is most used for underwater. And dolphins have it, but bats have sonar too, and they use it in the air. And radar has longer range and can be used underground or underwater to some extent. And I don't know how much LIDAR is used or what it's used for, but apparently they got it working in the iPad, so that seems pretty cool. I watched a documentary about bats recently. Actually, I watched several, but one of them was particularly good and had scientific info related to their echolocation stuff. In fact, let me just find that for you guys. I just typed in bat documentary, but then the question was which was the good one. I think it might be this one.
The idea that we will nice and loud.
Yeah, this is the sciencey one.
This bet.
Okay, I'm pretty sure this is the one I liked. I was watching it because bats are involved with spreading SARS and coronavirus stuff. I'm just gonna check the other ones real quickly to make sure I got the right one. Huh? Okay, this one was dumb. This one was okay, but it's very different. This is like a nature documentary. Guys like going in caves. It's not sciencey. This is viruses, not bats. So check this one.
The world is a busy place.
Available to biologists.
And we also use easily. It needs to be
this is like outreach to the public, where they're trying to convince you not to kill bats. It was okay, it was fine. It wasn't like modern SJW propaganda. It had a very old vibe, like I think it was made a while ago. And it was like, okay. Does it have a date on it at the beginning or something?
The world is a...
No, what about the end? I have my computer's muted, but you guys can still hear the video. Oh shit, you might have trouble hearing me, because, yeah, the video is still sending audio. I'll just mute it like this. Yeah, the fairy tale one I, like, gave up really fast and just changed videos. Yeah, so I wish they'd put a date on this one. But anyways, it looked kind of old and it wasn't rabidly SJW. Even though it was like somewhat environmentalist and stuff. But it was like the much less offensive kind of environmentalism. Things have gotten worse in some notable ways in the last 10 years, where like the really awful people have gotten way more popular. In the last, I don't know, 20 years, 15, 10, I don't know. Like, some of the stuff that's normal now did not used to be normal. A lot of people are just a bit more reasonable, I think. $19.98. See, that makes sense. That's... I would not expect that to have been made in, say, 2018. Just from the content, even setting aside the style stuff, that makes it obvious it's an older video. Anyway, so authorization to bail out money market funds, multi-trillion-dollar unregulated bank-like deposits for the super rich. Okay, that's a fucking lie. I have money in a money market fund. Whenever you like sell your stocks at like Vanguard or something, they put your money in a money market fund. It's just sort of like your leftover money while it's waiting is in a money market fund. They're completely normal. They're not for the super rich. This guy is an egregious propagandist at times. This is such a dishonest statement, and he absolutely, being like a bit of a finance and econ guy, knows that he's lying. Like, he has to know. That like regular people have money in money market funds. Like, usually not large amounts. But I don't know if the super rich put large amounts in those funds in general either. Anyway, they're like a core part of the financial system. They're very important. They try very, very, very hard to never lose money. They give interest rates similar to what you can get in a bank account. Like if you get an Ally account, there's certain bank accounts that have like relatively high interest. They're often online only or something. Ally Bank is one of them. And currently the interest rates are around 1.5%, I think. Anyways, money market funds give you a similar interest rate to a bank account, like a savings account. The good ones. That's what I understand they do. And so they're trying very hard to not lose money and have very low risk, in the same way that bank accounts for regular depositors do the same thing. They're trying very hard to make a little bit of money with like almost zero risk. And of course the government is totally willing to bail them out with FDIC insurance and shit if they fuck that up. That's it's not a good thing, but it's normal and it's been going on for a long time, and it's not, you know, a subsidy for the super rich. Like, they're trying to protect the middle class with the FDIC thing, and this is very similar, I think. I mean, it's more related to the financial system and like Wall Street, but it affects normal people too. It's not for the super rich. Like, that makes it sound like it's for trillionaire individuals, or I mean, we don't have trillionaires, billionaires, and like it makes it sound like it's only for people who have like $100 million or more individually, and that's who uses money market funds. They're these unregulated things where the super rich like get a good deal, and it's not that at all. That's complete bullshit. Oh yeah, that's fucking ridiculous. Like, literally, someone on a minimum wage job could buy that if they really wanted to. Shit, if you have a minimum wage job and you care enough, you can buy an iPhone, like a new good one, for like $1,000 or whatever. That is a possible thing you can do. And then pay like the monthly fees as well to get like unlimited bandwidth or whatever. Right, if you're on a minimum wage job, you're probably not going to do that every year. Like, you'd have to really, really care. But shit, I have money and I still have an iPhone X. Like, enough money to afford a new iPhone if I wanted it, but I kept my iPhone X. I'm like, this is fine. You don't need new iPhones. Like, they're just not that huge a deal to get the latest upgrade. I'm really happy with the iPhone X. I'm glad I got that when it was new. It was a big upgrade from the previous one. Got the video camera, what Face ID. Yeah, it had Face ID and the OLED screen and the no home button and the larger screen. I thought that was a good time to buy an iPhone. So that worked out well. Next year though, my phone will be 3 years old. At that point, I'm probably gonna get a new phone, even if it's not an amazing upgrade. Because I think trying to use it for 4 years is a bit much. But if you use it for 3 years, then the price per year you can divide by 3. So, you know, it's like under $1 a day at that point. If I use it for 3 years, the overall price is less than $1 per day. So that's no joke on minimum wage, but you can pay it. My iPad is not that new either, and it's totally fine. This is so fucking biased. Hospitals need money, patients need ventilators, people need to pay rent, but Wall Street will be fine regardless. Just don't give them any bailouts, they'll totally be fine. No. Like, Wall Street is capable of failing. Their companies are capable of going out of business. In fact, in my general understanding of the world, a significant amount of what some Wall Street does is take big risks on the basis that if they lose, the government will bail them out, and if they win, they'll keep the profit, which is a terrible system. But it goes to show that they're in a position where if the government does not bail them out, they will in fact be fucked, not fine, because they bet all this money figuring the government would bail them out if they lost. Like, I think that's literally a thing that happens. And it's awful, but it contradicts this claim. Like, you can hate Wall Street and still find this claim ridiculous. Yeah, I don't trust this author that much. There's too much propaganda in this. But I am worried that the bill really does have some awful fucking pork. Like, these things are so fucking sketchy. Lending power, though, can be misleading. Like, sometimes lending power means they'll lend against Federal Reserve notes. So it's like, if the government owes you money, like, say the government owes you $1 million, because you bought their government bonds, then the government can safely lend you $1 million. And if you don't pay it back, they're like, well, we're not giving you the $1 million debt. Like, there's security for the debt. They can do a huge amount of lending with security that's completely safe for them. You just lend to the people who already owe you money, and then who you owe money to. I think I said it backwards. Right. So it's like, if you owe someone money, you can lend them money instead of paying them back. And if they don't pay the loan back, you just cancel the debt. And you don't come out behind. So a lot of this is just that. So this could be extremely misleading. This sounds terrible. God damn it. That one sucks. They want their $15 minimum wage for people who aren't even working. Like, what the fuck? And that's how much it raises it by. It's not that it raises it to $600. It's that it raises it by $600. So are the tests available? Like, is the issue money to buy the tests? Or is the issue like actually having enough tests in existence that we can use? Like, money doesn't make more tests appear. I don't know. I don't know if this actually makes sense. Okay, so I didn't check the numbers yet today. Oh, I wanted to check if Ann Coulter followed up on her stupid shit from yesterday. That's why I left this tab open. Nope. 23 hours ago she said this, and then she's like, I'm coming up on this show, and yeah, she was literally trending yesterday for saying something so stupid. And then she has no comment when she gets like 15,000 people flaming her and trends. It should be somewhere around here. Here we go. She posted this graph and she said for people under 60, coronavirus is less dangerous than seasonal flu. And if you read the graph, it doesn't say that at all. It says more dangerous. Someone did like a, one of these things, correcting and pointing arrows to compare the numbers, and yeah, she did not delete the tweet. She didn't say my bad. She didn't do shit. Seems lame. Alright, now coronavirus update. Refresh page. Spain has gone way up. Like yesterday was 680 in Spain. So they're looking a lot like Italy. I don't know if this dashboard's very useful. I must have been using that chart. This looks cool though. It's nice for like a quick glance just to see it's like all over the world. Like, oh shit, there's bubbles everywhere. And like the lack of bubbles in Africa does not mean it's not in Africa. Oh yeah, so I was on Mac Rumors this morning. India. So apparently India might be doing the hammer. I didn't look into it more than this, but so yeah, 21-day lockdown. Forget what it means to go outside. Nationwide lockdown. All of India. So that's a big deal. It sounds like it might be the right thing, but I didn't read any other articles, so I don't know. Alright, what else? Was there anything else I wanted to look at before writing? Nope, I think it's time to write something. Alright, so I'm gonna go back to philosophy. I want to try to write about philosophy daily again, instead of only doing coronavirus. Oh, what's this? Oh, this thing we've been discussing? Okay, so our immune system has memory cells that are specific to an antigen. Antigen means a thing that stimulates an immune response. So our immune system is able to like capture pieces of viruses and bacteria, and it presents them on the outside of cells and sends messenger cells around with that antigen. So it uses a piece of the enemy as a communication molecule. And then it has these things called memory cells that know how to attack a certain antigen, a certain molecule as identified by that specific thing. And we keep them around. So that's why you don't get infected by the same thing later. So when a virus or bacteria mutates so that the antigen is different, then you have to fight it again. When the antigen is the same, you don't. And vaccines work by getting our immune system to make the memory cells the same as if you got infected once and fought it off. However, drugs can target other things. They can target like any part of the virus or bacteria and try to attack it, not just the antigen. So more mutations would affect whether a drug worked than whether a vaccine worked, because a vaccine only targets a more specific part, whereas drugs have a wider variety. The part that the immune system targets, in general, is it's basically like the battering ram part on the outside of the virus, in my understanding. The virus has like certain things that stick out on the edges, and those are used to help break into the cell. And that's what the immune system pattern matches and looks at and recognizes it by. So if it gets a new battering ram, you have to get immune again. And for some viruses, if they mutate their battering ram, they usually stop working. Like the battering ram is very functional to how they work. But some viruses, and I think this applies especially to flu, they rely very little on their battering ram to enter cells. So they can mutate their battering ram a lot and still be a functional virus. And I don't know how coronaviruses work in this regard. They're probably a lot more limited than flu, but I don't know how limited they are in being able to mutate the important battering ram part. I just want to make sure she's actually listening. Because if she's not listening, it affects what I would say in the discussion, or like what I would expect her to say, whether she's taking into account what I said or not. I'm not sure that we'd be able to do a new strain faster, because we can reuse a lot of things from one vaccine to another, but like that already applies with the vaccines we already have. So I don't know if developing a CCP virus vaccine would develop new stuff that's generic enough to work on a different CCP virus, but is not the general purpose stuff we already have for the vaccines we already make. Maybe, but I don't know. Okay, philosophy. Okay, so I'm gonna go and do some like generic brainstorming, like I'm just starting over. This is bigger than it needs to be. I think I'll just write more about it from the beginning. So this symbol means approximately, so this means approximately equals or roughly equals. Focus roughly means Okay, so you have a 50% chance of 500 and a 50% chance of 200. So each one has to be scaled by 50 and then you add them up. So it's 250 plus 100 is 350. Outcome distribution is like if I could bet my life savings with a 50% chance of doubling it and a 50% chance of losing it, the average outcome is 0. I gain nothing and I lose nothing. Like the average outcome is I get the same amount of money I already had. There's a 50% chance of 2x and a 50% chance of 0. The average is x. X being my life savings. So if you only look at the average, it's neutral. You don't care if you make that bet or not. However, it's actually really bad to have a 50% chance of being broke and like screwing your life up. Whereas the benefits from being twice as rich are not nearly so good. That's an extreme example of how distribution matters. But in general, the thing to look at with distributions is you want low risk. You want to avoid outliers that are negative. It's fine if there's positive outliers. Although if you put a bunch of resources into a project and it's like a good chance that nothing happens, like nothing negative happens, but you don't really get benefits either. And then there's a small chance of a really big benefit. That's not as good in general as a project with a large chance of a small benefit. You want the more reliable progress rather than a small chance at big progress, but a big chance at no progress, even when there are no negatives involved. I don't know, 50%. There's some stuff and you look at it and you're like, well, I'm gonna do it this way, but if that doesn't work, there's like, I can do it this other way. You've got like more ideas, you have backups. But then there's some stuff where you're like, I have this one idea about how to do it. It's this hard thing. It's hard to come up with ways of doing it. So if this doesn't work, I don't even know what I'd do. I'm glad I came up with the one solution at all instead of zero. So that affects like risk level a lot. Another thing that makes projects fragile is if the budget is really tight. Like, is the budget strict? Can you go over budget? they don't get to like use the project buffer and like look good while doing it. Like they don't have to look terrible, you don't have to punish them or be mad or anything. You just need to discourage it like a little bit. They won't do it for like kind of no reason and just being lazy. I accidentally clicked a button on my mouse. Apparently I switched. Huh. Not sure what button that is, it's a thumb button. I don't even know what it's bound to. What, do I not have a...
But first, the news of the day was...
I thought I had a Chrome window on this screen, apparently not. Anyway. I'll look at that later, after I write. Oh yeah. Um I want my architecture one. I forgot what the name is. So these are date modified. Okay, that means it's near the top. Oh, here it is. It was less near the top than I thought, but like, I don't know shit about architecture. But I still made a project plan. It doesn't have all the details, it's not even close. So we have stuff like, I want to build a skyscraper like Howard Rourke in the Fountainhead. So one of the project areas is get in charge of a skyscraper build. And then I thought of options like start my own business, or join a company and work my way up, or job hop a bunch of times to get promotions, or get rich enough to pay for a skyscraper. Right? So like, even though the project is not all fleshed out, you can come up with something about what you're going to do. I have other areas like learn how to deal with construction, subcontractors, etc. Learn how to do architecture. I could go to school. I could be self-taught on the internet with books. I could get a mentor. I could be an apprentice. Research the field and see what jobs are like and see if I actually want to do it and consider alternatives. You know, those are things you can figure out in advance, even when you know very little about the field. And they don't mean you're planning everything in advance. You're just planning, you know, more than nothing. It's sort of like brainstorming. Okay, I'm done writing for now. I'll put this one on Subscribestar as well. Subscribestar. Create a post. Exploratory writing tier. Oops. Right. You have to put it in up here. Oh yeah, I copied the title. Anyways. That should do it. Format looks alright. But Coulter again. Did she actually deal with her error? No, but she's tweeting about some news article. Oh, almost at 2 hours. Anyone have questions? Stream's probably not much longer. This thing is stupid. These people are stupid. The gains aren't, like, inherently percentages. We just often represent them as percentages. He's so stupid, and he's teaching that at, did that say Yale? Yale School of Management finance professor. They think they're so clever. But this mathematical fact, it's just a minor tip for not getting confused when you read data in terms of percentages up and percentages down. It has nothing to do with the world we're living in like a, it's not affecting, like, it's not like companies are worth less due to this. It's not a reason that causes recessions or lower stock prices. The stock prices go up and down in terms of the absolute numbers. It's not like the company's like, we figured out how to get 20% better, but because we were down 20%, we're ending up behind. Like, that doesn't happen. That's not a thing. Oh yeah, I do not use Google Docs. I do not recommend it. I dislike it. I dislike the UI. I always found the UI terrible anyways. But I do not think you should give Google control over your content either. If you really want to share stuff, just get your own web server from Linode or something and put it up on FTP or make a website or something. I mean, I just have files on a web server. You can too. But Dropbox works fine for now if you want to use that. But don't be shocked if you have to stop using Dropbox. Dropbox used to be a lot more file sharing friendly, and they got less on purpose. Like, you used to have a public folder and then you just put stuff in that and it's automatically publicly shared. It was really easy and convenient, and they got rid of that feature and they made it harder to share on purpose. So don't be surprised if they do more of that. They were user hostile. They got rid of a feature they already had to make things worse for users because they want to control what you do. And they want you to link people to like Dropbox pages where you're on their website and then there's like a download button instead of like directly to files. And they try to exercise control. Their goal is not just make things as good as they can for you. So it's worse than your own website in a lot of ways, in addition to the risk that Dropbox will just shut it down or block files or whatever. It's like with deplatforming in general. You don't want to be too reliant on these companies, they might screw you. So if you want to share something in a long-term way, you do not want to rely on a permalink from Dropbox. You can't rely on that file still being there in 5 or 10 years at the same link. If you want to put a file on the internet and just have it work indefinitely, you want to have your own web server that you control at your own domain that you own. And then even if your web host screws you, you can switch to a new web host. Hopefully we won't get to the point that they're like deplatforming us by stealing domains. I mean, they've done that a little bit to certain people, like Daily Stormer, I think, and Pirate Bay, but it's not a general problem. If it gets to that point, like, nothing else is going to be better. It's not like being on Google Docs or Dropbox is going to still work well for you at the point that they're taking your domain name away and kicking you off web hosts. They just sent out a new update. Oh, it's not even on the website yet. I'll just open the email. Where was I? I was here. Interesting. This is just such a social world. It's not interesting. Like, I haven't even read this yet, but he probably means bad. But interesting is a weasel word because it can mean good or bad, so you don't have to say what you mean. Yeah, by interesting, he just means I hate these people, they're being assholes. He doesn't want to say it quite like that. So it's lame. 25 million to the Kennedys? Why? Oh, so we could totally have perfectly good hand sanitizer, but to make it not alcohol is a big problem. Fucking government is fucking us. Is ABV alcohol by volume? That's my guess. Okay. So, oh, those are podcasts. They're probably long. Let's see. They're probably long and no transcript. Read more. Oh, yeah. Oh, this one's 22 minutes. And this one's 35 minutes. They're not that long. But I was going to look at this. Johns Hopkins update. This is really bad. In South Korea, their contact tracing, and this was like a week or two ago, I read that they were able to contact trace 80% of cases and know where it came from. So their unknowns was 20% and ours is 97%. We're way behind on getting a handle on red and green zones and who's safe and where it's being spread and so on. Which is why we need a fucking harsh lockdown immediately. Like India's apparently doing. Doctors and nurses went on strike because they weren't getting masks and shit. Oh, just a few months ago they went on strike and they're like, give us better money. And then they're mad there wasn't enough funding for enough masks and protective gear. I mean, I have no idea how related that is, but like, maybe they should have asked for more safety precautions a few months ago instead of pay raises. And now they're just striking again. Oh, here's the India thing. Oh, Japan as well. Alright, I'm curious about these. Rising number of cases in Japan. Ask residents to avoid non-essential outings until April 12th. Okay, they're keeping essential businesses. They're encouraging home delivery. 21-day lockdown. Social, entertainment, academic, and religious gatherings are prohibited. Funerals, 20 people max. And they did it quite quickly and there's some confusion, but good for them. That sounds great. That's what the US needs to do last week. We don't really need to know what the case fatality rate is. What we know is it's really bad and we don't want to overwhelm our hospitals. That's enough to make like important policy decisions for now. Like it's a good thing to start researching, but people are so hung up on it and they act like it affects policy decisions in a big way. But like all the wide range of values people think it might be, all lead to the same policy outcome. We should do the hammer and dance. And on top of that, there is no such thing as like the case fatality rate. It depends on the population and on whether the hospital system is overloaded or not. That's the biggest factor in case fatality rate. So our biggest policy goal should be to not let the hospital system be overwhelmed. Because that just hugely raises case fatality rate. They let them off the ship in Vietnam, and now they got infections on their ship. Hopefully that getting the 3 sailors off will stop it. But if there's more people and it just spreads around the ship, that'll be a bit of a disaster. Although not that big a disaster in the overall context of the pandemic and what's currently happening in the world. Alright, bye guys.